The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, here's Steve Austin.
Yeah, that's right. I got Bruce Pritchard, a.k.a. Brother Love, on the other end of the line, calling from Houston, Texas. Bruce, welcome to the Steve Austin Show. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. Thank you very much. You know, it's an honor to be on the Steve Austin Show, by God.
Oh, shit, you're making me blush over here in Los Angeles, California. If you hear a dog drinking some water in the background or snoring or farting, that's her. She's the wonder dog. She wanted to come down and listen to me talk to Brother Love as well.
What up, Hershey?
She can't hear you. I got the headphones on. She's sleeping her ass off. But if you hear her, that's her. Don't worry about it. Hey, man, what have you been up to lately, goddammit?
You know, just kind of in between gigs right now. And, you know, just so, hey, to all your listeners, if you're listening out there and you need a good producer, director, whatever, I'll be your chief cook and bottle wash. I don't care. I'm cheap, but I ain't free.
Hey, he's at Bruce Prichard on Twitter. Hey, man, let's get this thing rolling because, Bruce, when did you and I first meet? When I rolled up into WWE in 95?
The very first time that we met was when you came up to Vince's house.
Right.
And you ate chicken, man, grilled chicken breast with mustard. And it was like going, oh, my God, that is absolutely disgusting. You and Vince sat there and ate chicken breast, and I think I had fried bologna or something.
But you jarred my memory banks. I do remember that. What had happened was, you know, Vince and I had flirted around like 2 times and about bringing me into WWE. And it was WWF at the time. But, you know, based on the meetings that we always had, I knew that it was mechanic-oriented. I knew that there weren't grand future plans for me to hold any kind of gold championship belt or to strap a rocket on my back and get me that push. So I was kind of happy staying where I was at. When he finally called me, you know, after I did my ECW thing, so then I came in, and, of course, I would go on to make my debut on your show, on your part of the show with Brother Love and Ted DiBiase. And Ted DiBiase is my manager. But before we get there, you and I always hit it off from the day we met, and we've gone down our roads. It's not like we texted each other or called each other all the time, but you and I always hit it off right off the bat. And you grew up in Houston, Texas, right?
Yes, sir.
And you got your start at the Houston Coliseum with Houston Wrestling, working for Paul Bosch. Now, Tom Prichard, your brother's 4 years older than you. How did you get your start in Houston Wrestling? Was he already in the business? Did you follow his footsteps?
Well, you know, it started out when we were kids. My mom would take us every single Friday night to the same Houston Coliseum.
How old were you when you first became a fan?
Oh, my God. I first became a fan in El Paso, Texas, watching the Funks in the Amarillo territory. And that was the greatest thing in the world. And my whole world got uprooted, and we moved from El Paso to Houston in 1969.
Were you born in El Paso?
I was born in El Paso, raised.
Oh, man, I thought you was a Houston kid.
From 1969 on, yep.
Okay, so anyway, you go on to Houston, and then, but you're already watching wrestling over there in El Paso?
Yep, and we got here, man, and it was a whole different group of wrestlers. You know, there was Wahoo McDaniel and Johnny Valentine and Thunderbolt Patterson, and it was just different. The Funks were heels in Houston. I couldn't believe that, because the Funks were heroes in Amarillo, man.
They had to be babies over there to draw that money, and then they could work the other side if they went to a different place, right?
Oh, hell yeah. So it was, you know, we just were those guys that we went every single week. We had the same seats every single week. And Paul Bosch, who was the promoter there in Houston, Texas, had big cauliflower ears, man, and he was the man in Houston, Texas.
Damn right.
And Paul, every day, got his mail at 9:30 at the wrestling ticket office. And so if we were off school or something and we had like a holiday or whatever, my mom would drive us downtown, and she'd get us there right at 9:30. So Paul Bosch was coming out to get his mail.
Yeah.
And we were those kids, hey, Paul Bosch, how you doing, Mr. Bosch? You know, and he would always stop, talk to us, bring us back to his office and show us, you know, because you didn't get back beyond the counter, man. And Paul would bring us back, let us go down the hallway, and you know, it was like going back in the dressing room at that time. That was like the coolest thing on earth. And Tom was, as you said, 4 years older than me. And Tom started taking pictures and Paul let Tom take pictures at ringside. And so Tom was gradually doing things with Paul and doing different things, and the opportunity came up to sell posters. And they asked me if I would be interested in doing that. I'm like, well, hell yeah. You know, you get a quarter a poster, 25 cents a poster you sold for $1.
That's good money.
Well, it's great money, because the first time we went out, they gave a bunch of us, 4 posters each, about 6 kids. Well, I went out and I sold my 4. I came back, got more, sold more, came back, got more. I made $12 first night, 10 years old, $12. 1973. Brother, that's big money.
Damn right it is.
That's big money. And so I became like the poster kid, man, and I sold stuff and everything. And by the time I was 12 years old, we did the TV show there in Houston, and the assistant director was in charge of timing the shows out, giving Paul commercial cues and things like that. And I got to do that when I was 12. When I was 14, man, I got a ring announce. Funny story with that, too, but I was a ring announcer, and then by the time I was 18, I was just kind of general manager running the whole show, so it was pretty cool.
Man, you got a great education process. Give me that story about the announcing gig there at 14.
Well, we had a big storm that had come through. I guess it was like it wasn't a full-fledged hurricane, but it was this huge flood that came through, and in those days, you didn't cancel shows. And I was determined. It was Friday night, man. We were going to the Coliseum. So my mom takes me down, all this stuff, in the horrible weather, and we get down there, and I'm selling my posters and all this stuff. And Boyd Pierce was the ring announcer.
Right.
And Boyd was usually the first one in the building, but this night there was no Boyd. So it's getting closer, man. The show started at 8:30, It's 8 o'clock. There's still no Boyd. Very unusual. We didn't have cell phones back then, and nobody answered the phone at the Coliseum.
Right.
So it gets closer. It's 8:15. It's 8:20, 8:25, and finally Paul's nephew comes down and says, Boyd, I don't think he's going to be here. I guess maybe he didn't make it in from Louisiana. I said, bummer. He says, well, you want to do it? I was wearing, you remember those Hobie surf shirts?
Yeah.
I'm wearing a blue Hobie surf shirt and jeans. And I'm like, well, yeah, okay, cool. So I get up, and I'm nervous as shit. And I get in the ring, and I welcome everybody to Sam Houston Coliseum, and I ask everybody to stand, please rise for the playing of our national anthem.
You're kidding me.
So that's my first fuck up. Yeah. From there, got Toru Tanaka in the first match, and I introduced him from Yokohama, Japan. And then it just went from there. Superstar Billy Graham just humiliated me in the main event, and it was, and I mean, after just calling me everything but a man, he humiliated me on the microphone in front of everybody, and then I came back, and then that's one of those, aha moments as I was in the back afterwards. Again, I'm 14 years old, man. I'm not smart to anything.
So was he shooting with you, or was he ribbing you?
Oh, no, he was being a heel. He was being a superstar.
Right.
But he came out and said, hey, thank you, kid, man. Good job, man. Good job. Way not to break up out there. And I was like, oh, my God. I'm scared to death. Because he was yelling and screaming at me, you're nothing but a punk kid. Who's a punk kid telling me I'm disqualified? I'm suicide Billy Graham, and you're nothing but a punk kid. And I'm thinking, oh, God, I really screwed this up. I'll never do it again. So, yeah, that was my first time as a ring announcer. Hell of an experience.
And you were selling tickets to the Sam Houston Coliseum. It was an indoor arena located in Houston, Texas, 801 Bagby Street. Now, this arena was opened in November 1937 and had a capacity of 9,200 folks. Let me tell you something, mister. I grew up 100 miles down from there in Edna, Texas. When I changed the channel, 7 or 8 years old, that smoke-filled Coliseum, it just resonated with me, and it caught me. And I was just in love with the business. So you were there. You have been to every building there has been, Bruce, and we've been in some great ones together, doing a lot of stuff backstage, which we'll get to later. The Sam Houston Coliseum was one of those great buildings for wrestling. I saw it on TV, but how was it in person? Talk to me about the ambience and the atmosphere of that place.
It was magical. Actually, I mean, you described it well. Smoke-filled, but it was a classic hockey arena.
Right.
And it had the cement floor, and they had everything in there from the rodeo to the circus, but every Friday night was Houston wrestling, man. Every Friday night that ring got set up, the platform got set up where we did the interviews in the back. So you had a platform that was raised up, and it had a backdrop that said Houston Wrestling with Channel 39, and Paul would come out and do interviews with the boys, promoting next week's show. And the fans could come up, right up to the edge of the interview platform there. They couldn't hear them, but, they could see all the guys and everything, and they'd cheer and all this shit. It was magical as a kid. I mean, it was the greatest thing in the world to me. I mean, my dream as a kid was to one day grow up and be able to promote Houston wrestling, and that was the goal. But it was one of those old arenas that you could feel.
Was it anything like was it like an upgraded version of the Sportatorium? Because
yes, well, it was a lot nicer than the Sportatorium.
Yeah, that's what I mean. An upgrade, but kind of that same old school inside feel.
Yes.
That it had to have that smell to it. Because when I watched Houston wrestling back in the day, I mean, I was just a punk kid, 7 or 8 years old, didn't know what the fuck was going on, just that I loved those two guys fighting for that championship belt. I could see the cigarette smoke. Everybody used to smoke back in. You could only see about the second or third row. But it's almost like these days when I go back to those memories, I know the smell, I know what that mat smelled like, and I know what that atmosphere felt like. And that was muddy. That was pro wrestling.
Around, Steve, with buckets of beer on ice in bottles.
Yeah.
So you'd hail the beer guy, and he'd walk over, he'd pop the top, he'd pour it in the cup and hand you the cup because he wouldn't hand you the bottle. So when shit started breaking down, people would be looking for the beer vendor because they'd reach in and grab the bottles of beer out of their buckets to throw them at the heels. So it stunk like stale, stinky beer, sweat, and smoke.
But that's that good stink. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If you dig it, if you understand pro wrestling, that's what it's all about.
It was the money smell.
Let me ask you this, because, back in the day when I was watching, you didn't see kids like you do these days at the arenas. And so you and Tom, young cats, when you first got into business, I mean, what did all your friends think? Because, man, you guys were hanging with the bigwigs. Y'all were hanging with Paul Bosch and Houston Wrestling.
Well, most people didn't believe it. I remember the night that I was the ring announcer, man, for the very first time. I'm in high school, and there was a girl that I kind of knew and liked and everything, but she came to the matches that night from my high school with a guy, Steve Yeager, on the varsity football team. And I was made at that point, because here's Steve Yeager, 2 or 3 years older than me, varsity football player, and all this stuff, and he's there with this girl and everything that's in my homeroom, and he just was like, oh, hey, wow, man, Bruce Pritchard. And I became cool at that point. It was, I could hang out with the big kids then.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
All my days in the business, I always, of course, I grew up watching that specific promotion, knew who Paul Bosch was. Of course, IW Marks, one of their big sponsors. And but I always heard throughout my years in the business that Paul Bosch was such a great payoff guy. So I want to ask you some questions. And to all my listeners that are or were enlisted in the United States Armed Forces, Paul Bosch, the promoter of Houston Wrestling, who bought the territory from Morris Siegel. He bought it from Morris Siegel's widow when Morris died. And Paul had been wrestling for many years, had a car wreck in, I think, 1947. And then, it was kind of like a layup to buy this territory from Morris Siegel's widow. And Paul Bosch served in the U.S. Army during World War II. He received a Purple Heart, a Silver Star and Cluster, a Bronze Star and Cluster, a French Croix de Guerre Star, whatever that is. I'm sorry about the pronunciation. A Combat Infantryman's Badge, Distinguished Unit Citation, and a Distinguished Citizens Award from the 121st Infantry Association. Bruce, with this military background, this decorated World War II veteran, what kind of cat was this guy to deal with amongst all the shenanigans and hijinks of the boys?
Well, Paul could be one of the boys sometimes, but sometimes he was Paul. And Paul was probably, I think if you were to go back in history, one of the most respected promoters.
Yep.
And like I say, he was a great payoff guy, but Paul also commanded the respect of the boys, of the promoters, of the bookers, of the other offices around the country. When I say he owned the town, he owned the town.
Right.
I mean, he was at all the charity events, man. It seemed like every 3 years it was Paul Bosch Day in Houston, Texas. And, he had his vices. It wasn't drinking drugs and all those things, but Paul had his vices.
Right.
And he lived his life the way that, he wanted to live his life. And he understood, the boys. He wasn't big on the drugs and the alcohol. Didn't condone it. But I don't think that he also really ever understood it either.
But then let's talk about the locker room back then, because, going through my time, it was Somas, Vikings, Ambience, Halcyons, whiskey, vodka, and a lot of beer. What was the locker room? Some blow and some marijuana here there as well. So then, Bruce, if this is about 73, 75, what was the flavor of that locker room back in?
Well, I wasn't in the locker room then, but I'll tell you, again, going back hearing stories, because I would go and go get coffee for the guys, do whatever, and Mr. Fuji has his own stories about what I used to do then. But it was, there was still, man, there are guys that like their blow and guys that like to get pilled up and go out there and beat the living shit out of each other. They still, whether it was speed, whether it was painkillers, whatever it took to give them that edge and take it to that next level for them.
What was it? Was there any difference between that locker room, just as far as the cats involved, versus the locker room today?
Oh, God, huge. Just a different mentality in that what they were doing, they were there, man, because they wanted to be wrestlers. They were there because they loved the life of going out and working in front of a crowd, coming back, getting paid, go get a 12-pack of beer. Actually didn't have 12 packs then. Go get a couple 6-packs of beer. Bam, get in the car, head on to the next town. And they loved it. They wanted to be in the business because they wanted to be a wrestler. And I think the difference is that some of these guys today want to be in the business because they want to be a movie star or a rock singer or something else other than a wrestler.
What was the weekly territory like that? Because I never knew that. I knew they ran Houston on Friday nights, but you had a lot of guys coming and going from, Bill Watts, also guys coming and going from, as you said, Funks and Amarillo. So what was the travel schedule on a weekly basis for guys in that territory?
Well, in the early 70s, when Paul initially bought the business up until about 1981, 82-ish, he used the Dallas booking office. So the Dallas booking office, they usually ran Dallas on a Sunday night. They'd run Fort Worth on Monday, and then they'd do the loop. They'd go like San Antonio. They'd hit Austin. They'd hit Corpus. And then Friday night was Houston, and Houston would make their week.
Right.
And then those guys would go back and usually do Dallas TV on a Saturday, and then they do a spot show on Saturday night somewhere. So it was a lot of driving, and it was a lot of miles. But Houston, for the most part, Paul booked his town differently. He didn't use Dallas TV. He did his own TV.
Right.
So Paul shot his own angles on his TV that were sometimes different than what they were running in Dallas. So
then who was booking for Paul? Was Paul booking himself?
Paul booked it with whoever the booker was in Dallas. So like if it was Gary Hart,
yeah.
Gary Hart would come in with Bronco Lubitsch, who was also in the office in Dallas. They would come in on Friday afternoon. They'd get in and they'd meet with Paul. They'd lay out that night's show. Paul would have his TV laid out. They'd come up with the finishes and everything. And
how well did you know Bronco Lubitsch?
I mean, I knew Bronco fairly well.
Man, that guy was so good to me in Dallas, Texas. Him and Skandar Akbar. I was just breaking in, and they'd let me get in the back of their car, and, of course, we'd talk wrestling and psychology the entire way on trips from Dallas down to Louisiana, little shithole towns where I'd be wrestling, making $15 or $20. That guy was like gold to me, and, of course, he had his career. But so what kind of cat was Bronco back in the day? Because he was an older guy when I met him, but just the nicest guy in the world and full of information and knowledge that he was willing to share with me.
Bronco was a gentleman.
Yeah.
The best way to describe Bronco. He was a true gentleman. Everything that Bronco was, Gary Hart was exactly the opposite. And they traveled together, which always used to blow my mind. Because Bronco would sit there and smoke his cigar, and Gary would sit there and smoke whatever Gary smoked. And they were as different as night and day. But Bronco was a true gentleman, man. And God, I could only imagine sitting in the back seat with Bronco Lubitsch and Skandor Akbar.
Here's a story for you. One time we was wrestling at the Jacksboro, Texas National Guard. And you know how a lot of the boys will go in and work, and their girlfriends would just stay in the car in the parking lot. A lot of times that's just the way it would happen. So one time, I think it was during intermission, Jacksboro at the National Guard, and Bronco goes out in the parking lot and takes a leak. Well, he's pissing right in front of one of the guys' girlfriend. And so I went up to Bronco, and I said, Bronco, you're pissing out there right in front of Jimmy Joe's girlfriend. Bronco, he's always a thinking guy. So he thought for a second. He goes, it's okay. I didn't pull it all the way out. that made it okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, he didn't pull it all the way out. Way to go, Bronco. I agree. He must have been a gentleman indeed.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Hey, so then you're in Houston wrestling. You're doing a gig, and then y'all are doing business with Bill Watts, because don't you end up going to Mid-South at some point here in the near future?
Well, what happened, man, is like 1981, 82, in that time frame, Joe Blanchard had broken off from the Dallas booking office and had started Southwest Championship Wrestling. So Paul had his differences with Dallas and the NWA folks, and so Paul broke off his relationship, and he went with the San Antonio booking office, and Wahoo was the booker. So we did that for a few years, and then they went through a series of different bookers, and then we had a big show that was headlined by Nick Bockwinkel and Dog for the title in a finish that I've always loved and has only been done one time to my knowledge.
What was that finish?
Dog and Bockwinkel. So Dog gets Bockwinkel, big thump for the finish, and he's got Bockwinkel beat. He's got him out. Referee slides in. Referee counts 1. Bobby Heenan slides in. They're right there by Heenan. Heenan slaps the mat and yells, 2! The referee slaps the mat for the second count for the referee, and when he slaps it, Heenan goes, 3! Oh, my God! Now, again, this is also kind of how advanced we were, too. We had the cameras there to make sure that we got Heenan right there.
Right.
And you saw it. But the way Bobby was Bobby was so damn good, everybody in the building saw it.
Yeah.
And knew what he was doing. Dog, who has heard 3 count, right?
Yep.
Gets up. He's just won the title. And the referee is looking at him like, it was 2. And Dog's going, you said 3. And he looks down, and Heenan is strutting out there, and all he goes, you son of a bitch. Bockwinkel comes in from behind, fucks him with the belt, bam, rolls him up quick. 1, 2, 3. Bam, Bockwinkel rolls out of there hugging his fucking title like, oh, my God, he was dead.
Dude, what town was that? Because it
was in Houston.
Oh, man, dude, people had been going ballistic for Dog to get beat like that.
Oh, my God. It just blew the roof off. But also, the other match was Tommy Rich and Gino Hernandez in a cage.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Tommy Wildfire Rich was on fire for so... Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, what happened, man, is like you're talking about payoffs and stuff. So everybody gets their payoff, and Gino Hernandez was red hot, man. Gino was a top heel.
Yes.
Gino was the shit. And Gino got his payoff, and Gino felt he should have gotten more. And Gino came in, and Gino talked to Paul. Paul went out, cut him a check for what he thought he should have made. Bill Watts called within like a day or so after this happened, and Paul was just disillusioned with the business. He was just so pissed because Paul was always a real good, very fair payoff guy.
Right.
And the fact that Gino, who he had taken such good care of, had come in and basically, questioned his payoff, Paul was ready to get out. And Bill called and said, hey, I'd like to talk to you about buying into Houston. And Paul, timing was right. And Paul said, well, come on in, let's talk. And that, folks, is history. And they decided to make an arrangement, and Bill came in, and Bill was going to handle the booking, the TV, the payoffs, everything. And that's when everything changed. So Bill came in, and he did that. We used part of the show was Mid-South Wrestling. That was an hour of the show, and we also taped an hour of the show at the Coliseum. That's when we went from every week to every 2 weeks.
But it was still Mid-South. This is pre-Universal Wrestling Federation when you tried to go national.
Mid-South.
Gotcha.
It was a good old shit.
So how was the experience between going from Paul Bosch, the way he conducted business, to going into business with Bill Watts?
Well, it's kind of like, that's a night and day comparison. Because Paul was a little more soft-spoken.
Right.
Paul was a straightforward kind of guy, but he wasn't in your face. He wasn't brash, whereas Bill could be a bully sometimes.
Right.
Bill was a little rough around the edges. Bill knew exactly what he wanted and how he was going to get it. So it was a little blustery, I guess is one good way to describe it.
But he was a smart guy, right?
Bill Watts?
Yeah.
Very much so. Oh, my God, man. And he would lay it out for you, A to Z. And by God, if you got to T and you tried to go to W, he was going to whoop your ass.
But what were your responsibilities now that you had switched over and working with Watts?
Well, I was still just running Houston, but then as he started sending Jim Ross down.
Right.
And Jim was the Mid-South guy, and Paul hated JR. Oh, my God, Paul hated JR.
Really? Why?
Well, because he was the Mid-South guy. And Bill wanted Jim to do commentary with Paul.
Right.
Well, Paul didn't want to do commentary with anybody. Paul wanted to do it by himself.
Well, Paul had a very unique, distinct, slower-paced style than Jim as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you got JR. And so, Jim comes down, and Jim's trying to help out. Jim's, trying to help with the marketing and everything else with Mid-South. And it was just oil and water.
Well, now, how did you get along with Jim Ross back in the day? Because I know how you guys.
Jim, great. That's what I was going to say, man. Because Jim took a liking to me, and Jim started helping me out. I said, "Well, goddamn boy, why don't you come on over here and you can maybe help us out and do something?" And Jim would start bringing me in more on the Mid-South side.
Right.
So then Jim says, "Why don't you come up, and see how we do our TV?" So I go up there and all this shit, and I started doing things, and Bill says, "You ever done interviews, kid?" And Ross is like, "Goddamn, Bill, he can do it, just let him do it." And so JR got me to where I was doing the interviews there with Mid-South. And Paul, oh my God, yeah, Paul and Pete hated that. They hated the fact that I was on national TV on Mid-South.
Oh, Jesus.
And they wouldn't air any of my stuff in Houston. They would
really?
They would have Paul do the same interviews that I was doing for the national show.
How'd you feel about that?
I was young and had a big ego. Well, I still probably have a big ego, but you get a little pissed off and jealous and just like, how dare they?
Yeah.
But Bill did a good job, and JR did a probably better job of keeping me down on the farm and just going, hey, don't let it get to you. You're national, man. You're airing everywhere. And don't worry about not being aired in Houston, man. Everywhere else, you'll be a star type thing. Man,
there was some great action going on Mid-South and Power Pro days. I mean, those two of my favorite shows there. Man.
That's some good shit.
Well, I mean, the Freebirds were running hot. DiBiase was running hot. Duggan was running hot. Terry Taylor's a hell of a worker. He was on fire. Who else was in there at that time? Running
Dr. Death, man.
Yeah, Doc was hot.
That's when Doc, when Bill put Doc with DiBiase, that is when the light bulb went off with Doc.
Right.
He was a badass, man, and it just, it just overnight clicked, and it all worked. And we had, you had the Freebirds coming through there. You had Dewey Robertson, the missing link. You had the girls. You had Missy Hyatt and Dark Journey.
Dude, when Missy Hyatt hit Dark Journey with the loaded Gucci bag.
Yeah.
Jesus, that was like that was main event stuff back then, back in the day, and it was cat fighting. It wasn't wrestling. That was the shit everybody wanted to see.
But you know why it was so good? Because neither one of those girls could work.
Well, yeah, that was the thing about it. It was two chicks out there really going. I mean, dude, that was almost like a shoot. They were working, but it was like a shoot. It was great.
It was, and they didn't really care for each other, so that made it even better.
And they were both, I thought, they were both pretty hot. And, when they went at it, man, it was a real deal. And, of course, the loaded Gucci bag that Jim would scream about all the time was over like a motherfucker. It was tremendous.
Oh, damn, a loaded Gucci bag. Missy.
So,
it's great shit.
So then Watts tries to take this thing nationwide. It doesn't pan out so well. And then, so how did you end up in WWF?
Well, I was working for Bill there, and out of the blue, we show up and do TV in Louisiana, and I'm with Joel Watts. And we're sitting at the Holodome there in, I can't remember the name of the town, but we're in Louisiana.
I know exactly where you're talking about, and I can't remember it either.
And we go into the restaurant there in the hotel to get lunch, and Joel and I are the only two people in there, and we're about ready to finish up our lunch, and in walks Jim Ross, Jim Crockett, Tim Willett, who was one of his syndicated guys, and his lawyer. And they come in, they walk into this restaurant. Now, we're the only two people in there.
Right.
Literally. And they completely blow us off and ignore us and go over and sit at a table on the other side of the room. Joel is boiling because rumors had been running rampant that Watts was selling the territory.
Right.
And we finish up and everything, and Joel's pissed off. He says, fuck them, I'm getting out of here. So I said, Joel, let's go over and say hello. He says, no, fuck them, man, I'm getting out of here. And we leave the restaurant. I said, Joel, dude, they saw us. They know we saw them. Let's just walk back in and say hello. So we walk back in, walk over to the table. I introduced myself to Crockett, even though I'd worked for him a couple times at the Superdome shows and everything.
Yeah.
And sits back in his chair and says, Joel, I just bought your daddy's company today. And Joel doesn't really say anything, doesn't sell anything. And we're like, okay, hey, nice to see you guys. Guess we'll see you later. And so we leave, and we go back to the room, and we're writing TV, and Joel's pissed, man. He's pissed because his dad didn't tell him anything. So we go back, and then we're getting ready to do TV, and it was Ken Mantell was booking.
Right.
And Eddie Gilbert was helping out with the book, and so we're going over TV, and it's me, Eddie Gilbert, Ken Mantell, and Joel's there because Joel's director of the show. So we're going over TV, and there's a knock at the door, and it's JR and Jim Crockett. And they come in and say, guys, look, hey, just wanted to let you know I bought the company, and the only thing that's going to change is the name on the check. Look forward to seeing you tonight, man. Have a great show. Nothing's going to change. They said nothing's going to change probably 10 times.
Right.
So they leave, and we're sitting there, and about 10, 15 minutes later, knock on the door, and there's JR. He comes in, and he says, hey guys, let's see what you got. And he goes, I just like to, look over TV, before we get over there. We start going over TV, and we're about in the second segment. And JR says, well, yeah, I don't know about this guy. He's kind of got, he got a little history there with Jimmy Crockett, and it probably, I don't know how long he's going to be around. And we're like, okay, I thought nothing was going to change. Well, goddamn, just, got this one guy, come on. So we keep going, get down now, about segment 4. Yeah, guys, I don't know if we won't make this switch here right now, this time, because I don't know if, how long he's going to be, with Jimmy and everything. And so we get through the show, man. There's probably about 3 or 4 different guys now that may or may not be with us going forward. But nothing was going to change other than name on the
no.
So I went down and I made a phone call to Sanford, Connecticut, and I called Vince, and I said, hey, man, Jim Crockett has bought the territory from Bill Watts, so I don't want to work for Jim Crockett. I said, don't worry about it, man. He goes, everything will work out. He goes, you got a spot up here, but just hang in there for right now. Don't do anything drastic.
Right.
I'm like, all right. And then Paul Bosch, when he found out about it, he sent Bill a telegram and sent Crockett a telegram that in no way did he want to do business with Jim Crockett and that Houston would not be a part of the deal and that he was investigating other options. And that was Vince. And so Vince came down and met with Paul, Vince, Pat Patterson, and Jim Barnett. Oh, my boy, Jim Z. And did you ever know Barnett?
Oh, yeah, man. I love Jim Barnett. He was a good guy to me.
Steve, you're always my favorite.
Yeah, it was the same old rigmarole he probably gave to everybody. But, and I was only a mechanic down there, but he was really good to me. And, of course, Jim's an interesting cat, but he was very, very good to me.
Yeah. So they came down and they met, and Vince called me the night before. He says, all right, Bruce, he goes, I'm coming down to meet. I said, oh, yeah. He goes, I'm looking forward to seeing you. He goes, when we meet, it is the first time that we ever are going to talk to each other. Do you understand what I'm saying? I said,
right.
Oh, yes, sir. He goes, so when we meet, we've never talked before, we've never met before, nothing. He goes, you just, and then I'll talk to you tomorrow night after the meeting when I get back. So he came down, they met, and decided to do some business with Paul down there. And Vince told me, he says, look, I'd like for you to help with the transition, and then when time's right, come on up to Stanford. And that's how it happened.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
So what were you thinking about this, the way the landscape of professional wrestling was beginning to change?
Well, it was 1987, and you couldn't deny it at that point. For when Vince first started the rock and wrestling thing, all old timers, everybody was like, "Oh, this will never last."
They're cringing.
The business.
Yeah.
This is just horse shit. Everybody wanted to kill Vince, and Hogan sucks, and it's a cartoon. And then there was that little event called Wrestlemania 3.
Yeah.
And it was like, ruh-roh, I think he's got something here.
Right.
And how could you deny it at that point, And another good story, man. The night before WrestleMania 3, I got a phone call in my apartment. It was Vince McMahon. And he said, now, again, we've been talking and all this stuff. He says, hey, Bruce, he goes, just wanted to, say hello and let you know, everything's still moving along here. He says, but if you get a chance, we're doing a little show in Pontiac right outside of Detroit tomorrow. It's going to be on pay-per-view. If you get the chance, check it out. I'd love to get your thoughts on it. Now, fast forward, Steve. Right. You know what it's like the day before a WrestleMania, right?
Yeah.
The man's doing 50 million things. And to think that the night before, he had 93,000 people in the Pontiac Silverdome. Hulk and Andre, that he took like 2 minutes and called my happy ass in Houston, Texas.
So what was that like for 93,000 there in the Silverdome? How did that impact you from everything that you'd seen or done? Sure, you'd been in sold-out houses, but this, a light year away.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I remember sitting there watching on TV thinking, how could this happen? I'd been in the Superdome in Louisiana when we had drawn like 25,000 people and thought that was the biggest thing that could ever happen.
And that's a great house in its own right.
No kidding. And thinking, damn, I got an announce in front of 25,000 people. That was just shitting in tall cotton. But now, this sumbitch got 93,000 people under one roof, and who knows how many people watching on pay-per-view live. That was pretty damn humbling. That was a cool moment, because then you knew, hey, he ain't killing the business. If anything, it's getting ready to take off.
So the event goes down, the business is taking off. When do you make your entrance into WWF?
Well, Wrestlemania was in March of '87, and I came in April of '87.
And your duties were what?
I came in. Vince says to me, he goes, "I don't have a job description. Come on in and find your place." Literally, I had no job description. I'd go to TV, and I would, shadow Vince, and he would do the pre-tapes and all these things. And I'd just walk around with him and watch him doing stuff, and I'd go off and produce interviews and different things. But I watched, and I just hung around, and I got to sit in on booking meetings with him and Pat Patterson. And then...
Well, let's talk about some of those booking meetings, though, because back in the day, now this was obviously still at his crib in Greenwich, right?
Yep.
And so to the people who don't know, back in the day, as Bruce is talking, when Vince was laying out the matches for the next foreseeable future, while Vince was laying out the matches for the next few weeks, months, or whatever, they liked to book by Vince's swimming pool at his mansion in Greenwich. Correct, Bruce?
Correct.
So, but this was in a much more simplified time. This is back when they would sit there with pencil and paper and write ideas down and pair guys up or tag teams up and build to a particular date, maybe a pay-per-view, a big event. And so you got to sit in on some of those meetings. How has that changed from the way they book today?
Well, back then it was literally just a few minds. It was a few heads that you took the big story and you figured out where you wanted to go with that big story. You had an ending point. And then you worked backwards.
Right.
Well, what do we need to do to get here? What do we need to do to get to this big explosion blow-off? But it was a much simpler format, and it was, I guess the process was a lot simpler because you were always coming up with things, you were always coming up with ideas to make the big story better.
But you weren't trying to, excuse me for butting in, but it was almost a simplified process also because you weren't trying to fill in so many gaps or blanks because you knew that the guys would be doing a lot of that work, with the big picture, but you could paint in much broader strokes back then.
Without a doubt.
Because it's been so much micromanaged
today.
today.
Knew once you got them out in front of people and you got it on TV, you would listen. You listen to the people. You can tell what they're buying and what they're not buying. And then it left room to adjust.
So then when you make these initial, you start going to the booking meetings at the house with Vince and Pat. And obviously we know Vince is a genius. Obviously, for those who don't know who Pat Patterson is, probably one of the greatest finish guys in the history, if not the greatest finish guy in the history of the business. Some might say Eddie Graham. But obviously, Pat also, a badass, professional wrestler, hell of a tag team with Ray Stevens. But, man, see, he's a really, really smart guy, too. So how are you chipping in on these booking sessions between the old man and Pat?
Well, you got two guys that are 20 years my senior.
Right.
So who's closer to the demographic? And I came from a completely different place.
You're closer to the demographic, but how worried are you about stepping on their toes?
In the beginning, very worried.
Right.
But Vince has a way, of making people comfortable and allowing you. The thing about it is, if you're honest with Vince, and I found later years especially that the more I disagreed with him, and as long as I had backup and I had a reason why I disagreed, he loved it because he didn't just want to hear, yeah, goddamn Vince, that's great.
Right.
He wanted you to pick it apart.
Right.
And if you could pick it apart and you had good reasons for picking it apart, not just that sucks, but what if we tried this? What if you take the same idea and you tried this? Or how about trying this over here instead? And I learned a very important lesson from Pat Patterson because I did used to say, nah, that just sucks. That's a shits.
Right.
Without offering any suggestion to make it better or why it sucked or why it was a shits. And Pat said, he goes, you can suggest things. He goes, but if you added 2 words to your vocabulary, what if?
Right.
And then you present another side or an option.
Right.
He says, it will come across a lot better. And think about it before you just go, that sucks.
Right.
Because it may suck. It may be the shits and it may suck. But think about why it sucks and why it's the shits and come up with a reason and a way to make it better.
Right.
And we battled. Oh, my God, we used to battle. Vince and I would fight. Oh, brutal.
And so then this is 87, 88?
Well, I mean, in those times, Steve, I was like in the early '80s. Mainly, I was doing production and TV production and working on the cable shows, all the international. In '88, I pretty much oversaw the syndicated programming and all the TV at that point. So I would work with Vince and Pat, but more from the TV end.
So then, in 1988, Brother Love is born. How does this happen? Because I'm not trying to do your gimmick, I loved Brother Love. And, man, I tell you what, I used to travel with your brother, Tom Pritchard. 4 years your senior?
Yes.
Anyway, back in the day, in USWA in Tennessee, I traveled many miles with Dr. Tom Pritchard, and I got a lot of my psychology, a lot of my knowledge, a lot of the stuff that I did in the ring from Tom Pritchard. So, anyway, we were traveling down the road. You started up it was kind of right in the middle of Brother Love. And I love that damn character. So we were talking the other day before we did this phone call now. So how did this thing start?
Well, we all used to travel together. And, again, back in the day, I was a big fan of the televangelist. And as I told you, how we used to do TV in the Mid-South, we'd do Houston Friday, Dallas-Fort Worth Saturday, and Tulsa on Sunday, and do interviews on Monday morning. Well, Sunday night in Tulsa or Bixby, Oklahoma, there ain't a lot on TV other than Oral Roberts, a guy by the name of Robert Tilton, who's the single best televangelist that ever lived.
Yep.
Jim Baker, guys like that. And Eddie Gilbert and I would watch these guys, take notes, and make them a part of our promos the next day. So I always just loved that style. I loved the way that these charlatans could entertain, and also the way that they could manipulate people out of their hard-earned money.
Right.
And to me, it was so obvious and so phony that I loved it. So fast forward, I'm traveling down the road with Vince, and you're in the car for hours upon hours, might have a few cold adult beverages, and I would just start going on and start preaching. And Vince would laugh and say, God damn it, if we ever get out of this business, we're going to get a big tent, we're going to put it up, and then we're going to make some real money. And it would just go town to town. And so one thing leads to another, and I pitched him an idea about televangelist type character that goes out and never talks about religion. We never touched religion, never. And he loved it. He looked at me and said, God, I love that idea. It's great. Find me somebody to do that.
Now you're pitching this. You're thinking, hey, this is my gimmick all along, right? Yeah.
I'm pitching me.
Yeah. So he says, go find somebody else.
For him.
Yeah. So what happened?
Brothers and sisters, and be hailed. And I'm doing it for him. He said, God, I love it. God, find me somebody to do that. I go, it's me. He says, God damn, Bruce, you can't do it with that face.
What does that mean? You can't do it with that face.
Well, I mean, I had long hair, and it was a lot blonder then, and it's kind of gray right now. But so I said, I'm not going to do it with this face. I'm going to do glasses. I'm going to slick my hair back. I'm going to have a real slick presentation and shit. Goddamn, pal, just don't see it. So, all right. So I decide that I'm going to dress up, and I'm going to show him. And I get my hair all slicked back. I get some glasses. I get a nice little suit on and everything. And I go over. He had offices at 1055 Summer Street in Stanford. And then the studio was about 5 minutes away over on Hamilton Ave. And so my offices were in the studio. So I drive on over to the main office. And I walk in, and his secretary is like, well, he's in meeting with the head of international and the CFO. I'm like, okay.
So you're bent on doing the gimmick, yeah.
And I just went into a sermon. I laid hands upon Jimmy Troy, and I slapped my hand down on the desk, and I didn't, and apparently when I walked in, it was a somewhat a serious and kind of heated discussion going on. I didn't know that at the time, but and I just immediately left. I did my shit like about 2 minutes, and I left.
But just came in unannounced and started being Brother Love.
Yes.
And then got out of Dodge. So then what happens?
And I got in my car, and I drove back over to the studio, and I was scared to death. And I walk up, and I get there, and Assistant Sarah says, "What'd you do?" I said, "Why?" She goes, "Well, Vince has called twice." And that's only a 5-minute drive. And he's called twice. Why don't you call him? And I call him. He says, "All right, I want to see it on camera." So, book the studio, get it all set up. I want to see it on camera. So I'm like, okay, God, he's not pissed. I'm not fired. I still got a job. And now I might have a gig. So I got it all set up. We, do the thing. And Vince says, well, you can't go out there without makeup. So he has a makeup artist put makeup on me. And unbeknownst to me, he had the makeup artist just paint my face bright red.
Right.
So I go, and I'm not looking in a mirror. I just want to get out there and do my shit, right? So I go out and I do it in the studio, and I do the sermon, 3-camera shoot and all this stuff, and I do it, and I come out to watch it now with Vince, and I see my face is bright red, and I've got makeup all over my jacket, all over my tie, all over everything. And he's laughing. He thinks it's great, and I'm like, this is awesome. And I shared this story with you about Tammy Faye Baker.
Yeah.
The other day, Tammy Faye had done an interview with Maureen O'Boyle with A Current Affair. And Maureen O'Boyle asked her about how much makeup she put on. And Tammy Faye, with a straight face and running mascara, said, "I don't wear makeup." And it was like, are you kidding me, bitch? Come on. And so I thought that was great, because I could always say, I don't wear makeup. I just ooze love.
But it was a rib by Vince, right?
It was a rib.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
But
that
the
was
rib worked out for you. Yeah, it worked out great.
It was, yeah. But that's, again, where some people would look at it as a rib, I looked at it as pure genius, because it made the character that much more disingenuous.
It's funny how things happen sometimes along the way. If something comes out of a rib, talk to me about the rhythm and the cadence, about how you put that promo together. I mean, because you're a natural promo anyway. You think on your feet, but that Brother Love was just, man, he could spread some love like a motherfucker. So who influenced your cadence and your pitch?
Mainly Robert Tilton, man, because Robert Tilton could tell you about success in life, brothers and sisters. And I'll tell you what success in life is, because a lot of people are confused. And some people would say, well, Bob, I don't have any money. I have nothing to give. Well, let me tell you something about faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. Because if you only have $1, send me 50 cents. Show me your faith. Show me that you believe. Because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. With that remaining 50 cents that you have, maybe you're going to go in and you're going to spend that, and you're going to find something else that's going to end up where you earn $1.75. Well, you send me $1, and you take that 75 cents and you go back to work and you get even more, and all of a sudden you're going to find that you've got $4. Send me $2. Show me your faith. Show me you believe. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go out because now you have had some success. And you're going to go out, and all of a sudden you're going to have $10. Let me tell you something. You go from $1 to $10. Folks, that's 10 times your money that you start out with. That's what I call success in life. And he would do this for 30 minutes, and these sumbitches would send him money. And I thought, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. So I just kind of adapted him, and that was a lot of cadence. It was a lot of the, I love you. And just kind of, if you turn everything into a two-syllable word, yes, it all makes sense.
What did Benny Hinn influence you at all?
Yes, oh God, Benny Hinn laying hands on people, be healed. Yeah, he was great. All those guys, man, because they believed. They believed and made you believe. And when I walked out there, You'll really appreciate this one. My first ever, it was pay-per-view, man, SummerSlam '88. I'm going out, and it's the first time I ever performed, live TV, live pay-per-view. Also, guess where it is?
Where?
Madison Square Garden.
There you go.
So not only is it my first live TV, my first live pay-per-view, but it's my debut in Madison Square Garden. I'm 25 years old, 24, 25 years old, scared to death, and the whole long history about who my guest was supposed to be. It was supposed to be Jessica Hahn. It was supposed to be Ric Flair. All these different things that had gone on and ended up being Hacksaw Duggan. But before that, I'm standing at the curtain there, right where you go out at the Garden. Gorilla Monsoon is at the gorilla position, and I'm just staring out into the crowd. And it's packed, 18,000 people. I'm scared to death. I'm looking out the curtain, and Vince walks up. Or actually, Pat Patterson came through the curtain, and he pats me on the stomach, and he goes, "Good luck tonight, Brucey." And Vince goes, "Hang on, Patrick. That's not Bruce. It's Brother Love." And he goes, "Look at him. When you walk out there tonight, 18,000 people. And he's holding his hand out, and he's pointing into the palm of his hand. He's going, and you've got him right here in the palm of your hand. Gino," turned back to Gorilla Monsoon, "Gino, how many people we got watching on pay-per-view tonight?" And Monsoon, without even missing a beat, "I don't know, 5 million. 5 million people watching you live." Which probably wasn't anywhere close to that, but Monsoon liked to exaggerate.
Yeah.
And he says, "You own them. Fuck them. You own them. You can't fuck up. You own them. Go take it." So,
boy, that's a hell of a pep talk right there.
Oh my God! So, but it also just, you got butterflies. I'm one of those guys, man. I have butterflies every time I go out. Even,
right.
Today, I get butterflies before I go out. I just get nervous. I'm just thinking about shit. So, but here, I've got a whole swarm of butterflies in my stomach. I'm scared to death. And back in those days, you didn't have entrances with the lights and shit.
Right.
But this was my first time, and the lighting guy had come up with this pink lighting for my entrance. So I'm getting this really big entrance, and a pink light and all this shit. So I go out, man, and I tripped right there. That ledge where you step over from the backstage, and it steps over into the rink at the Garden. Yeah. I tripped right there, almost fell flat on my face. And I'm like, oh, damn. But it was, that was Bizarro Land, and that was where I learned when I'm out there, I stopped being Bruce. From the time I put my shit on to the time I came back through the curtain, I was Brother Love. Bruce didn't exist.
Dude, you hit it right on the head right there. Bruce Prichard don't exist no more. Brother Love does.
Yeah.
How did that night go?
Oh, God, it was great. Getting to work with Duggan made that part of it in the ring that much better, because I'd known him since he broke in, basically.
Yeah, and he was hot, and the previous relationship from Mid-South and all that.
Yeah. So, that part made it easy, but it was, it was great.
How long did it take to get that character over?
Steve, I debuted, and 3 weeks after I debuted, I'd done my first set. We did TV three weeks at a time. So I'd done my 3 Brother Loves, my introduction with Bobby Heenan. Ted DiBiase is my benefactor to carry on my message of love. And then the introduction of the Big Boss Man. So I'd done those 3. And right before we went to TV for the next set, the Jim Baker, Jessica Hahn scandal broke, where Jim Baker, who was, were they the 700 Club?
They were, I think they were on it.
Yeah, but he was big time, man. Had that whole thing there in North Carolina and everything. And he gets caught in a scandal having sex with his secretary. And so he's everywhere all over the news. I was made. Right there, because the timing couldn't have been, we couldn't have written it better. I was immediately, and people looked at the They all thought I was doing a spoof on religion. There were guys who wouldn't work with me.
Oh, come on.
Oh, yeah. No, there were guys who didn't want to work with me. Andre didn't want to work with me. Andre, knew Bruce. He liked Bruce, but he hated Brother Love.
Really?
Yeah. And he did not want to be on the show. He didn't want to have anything to do with Brother Love. Bruce was okay. So Vince had me do my hair, get in my Brother Love shit, but don't do my face yet. And he brought us in and had us sit down with the boss and said, Andre, it's good business, do it. And Andre agreed, but he hated Brother Love. The first thing I did with Andre was the SummerSlam stuff with, it was him and DiBiase, and we had Jesse Ventura as the referee. And Andre was like, didn't want to come out and do it with me. But he did. He did. It was good. And then he loved it. It was like Hogan, man. Hogan was off at the time. When he came back, he was like, dude, I don't want to be out there with you, man. He goes, somebody's going to pull a gun on you. Because I don't want him to miss. And
hey, well, let's talk about that. No, hey, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the heat that you had. How would that be for you traveling, getting around, town to town?
Because I had real long hair, and I would slick my hair back, and I'd pull it up in a ponytail, and then I'd wear the makeup and everything. And then when I'd go out, my hair was all down and a lot lighter than it appeared on TV.
Right.
I could walk in the building with my hair all down, and
they wouldn't know it was you.
Know who the hell I was. And I could walk out that night, I've taken a shower, getting everything off. People wouldn't even know who I was.
But there's a lot of guys, back in the day or current day that have been afraid of the heat. And you can't be afraid of the heat if you're trying to be a damn heel.
Oh, they were coming over. The first night I went out, man, by the time I came out the third time with Boss Man, they were coming over the railing. And that was great. I was like, loved it. Absolutely loved it. Because if you're going out, your job is to get people to hate you. If you can convince someone that they hate you so much that they are willing to risk their life and come over a barricade to whoop your ass, because the other great thing about being a heel is when you portray that every single person in that arena, from the biggest badass to the smallest child, to make them believe that every single one of them can whoop your ass and want to whip your ass.
It had to be very satisfying to you on a personal level, because as much as you love the business, as close as you'd been in it your entire life, here you are getting this feature spot and getting the jetpack and going out there and getting to be a heel. I've always enjoyed being a heel more so than a babyface. There's just so much more you can do, and especially as that brother love character.
But see, every time that somebody else, and my cadence and my thought process was, if I ever got lost, if I ever didn't know where I was, I would just stop, look in the camera, smile, and go, I love you.
See?
And it didn't matter.
God.
They hated me that much more.
But that's perfect. See,
yes.
if anybody just listened to what he said, some of these young cats out there agreeing, and all of a sudden you're trying to cut a promo, you get lost. Man, if you just stop and that was your crutch, that was your fail-safe, you couldn't screw that up like Vince said.
No.
That is absolutely tremendous, because there's been a
time.
So
when you go back and you look and you go, God damn, man, look at that. Great, you hit that I love you in there. Probably 9 times out of 10. I had no clue where I was.
Hey, but what would you do inside your head? Now, you're totally in character. You hit the I love you as that crutch, but then what are you doing to try to get back on where you need to be?
You just find your way back. You sit there and think, and I could smile. I could just sit there and smile and do nothing.
Yeah.
And it pissed people off. If I smiled, it pissed people off, and that would allow me to...
It did. I loved it.
Okay, I got to get here. Got it. All right. On to the next thing. And then myself.
Oh, that's a great thing to hear. It's so much of the business has changed. I don't want to talk about today's promos. Earlier we were talking about you doing your introductions there at the Houston Coliseum and Superstar Billy Graham jumping on your ass. I love Superstar Billy Graham's promos. Him, Dusty, the cadence, the lisp, everything. Give me some more of that Superstar.
Oh, Superstar Billy Graham, I'm the man of the hour, the man of the power, too dark to be sorry, which, by the way, Dusty Rhodes kind of stole that from, Muhammad Ali and Superstar Billy Graham. But Superstar Billy Graham, he was just, look at the gut. Did 2 inches, have you ever seen arms? I mean, he was great.
So
he was, he was great. Paul Bosch, I shaved my pretty legs. Look at how pretty legs are. I shaved my legs and I'm wearing short trunks just for the people of Houston, Texas to take a look. But don't look too long. Stop it. Everybody stop looking at my legs. And then he would go and cover up.
Hey.
I mean, he was fucking great.
How much time did you get to spend with Superstar? Because he was a guy, I love the content of what he said. I loved his cadence and his delivery more, but he always had something to say. He never tripped or stumbled. The guy had to have been thinking about what he was going to say.
He was one of those guys that just had the gift of gab.
He truly did. He was great.
He was one of those guys that just, you put a microphone in front of him, he's going to fill whatever you've got. And he's going to make it memorable.
So then,
every single time.
You like Superstar, you like Dusty. Who else you like in the promo world?
Wow. Piper. Love Piper. You go back in like the Atlanta days when just first started, and Tommy Wildfire Rich, somebody say somebody, fire up. Well, Tommy Wildfire Rich, I'm coming to Kenton, and then from Kenton, we're going to go on Dayton. Buzz Sawyer, I'll tell you, Wildfire's going to be running all over you, boy. I mean, it was the guys that made you believe and that brought you into the ring with them.
Yeah.
So that every time that they got hit and you felt that punch, and you wanted to bring them out of it. It was just such a difference. I mean, you go back and listen to the Freddie Blassie promos.
Right.
Your pencil neck geek, and he would go on and on. And then you look at a guy like Wahoo McDaniel that never had, and Jake the Snake.
Jake never gets enough credit. Yeah, he never got enough credit. Every now and then you'll hear someone rattle off, let's talk about the top 5 or 10 promos, and you don't see Jake's name on the list. He's in my top 5 if he's not my top 3.
Hell yeah.
The guy was, his work style in the ring was economical, effective. He was always working for that DDT. And, man, when that guy started talking, because he didn't raise his voice, you shut up so you could hear what the hell he was saying. Man, and he was badass. He had the facials. He never dropped off. He just had the whole demeanor. I believed everything came out of Jake's mouth.
And Jake, if a promo guy, if you're sitting at home and you've got to stop and scoot up so you can listen to the promo.
Right.
Brother, that's good shit because they care. And Jake would make you care one way or another. You either loved him or you hated him, but he'd make you think about it.
Any more promos?
See, I loved Hogan's promos. Early Hogan. I love the what you gonna do, brother? Just going back to that because again it was a different, but yet he stole from the best. He stole from Dusty. He stole from Superstar and made it kind of his own.
This has been a Podcast One production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
Dive into true crime on Pluto TV. Unravel the mysteries with Forensic Files and 48 Hours. Investigate crimes with Dateline 24/7 and Unsolved Mysteries. With thousands of free crime movies and TV shows, Pluto TV is the true home of crime. Download the Pluto TV app on all your favorite devices and start streaming true crime on live channels and on demand. Pluto TV. Stream now. Pay never.
What's up, guys? I'm Brendan Schaub. If you love everything mixed martial arts, I'm talking UFC breakdowns, UFC picks, one championship picks, Bellator, PFL, you name it, your boy breaks it all down. Tune into The Schaub Show, available every Monday wherever you listen to your podcasts. The Schaub Show. Enjoy.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy, Big Brother Jake, a.k.a. Jake Warner.
My government name.
Check it out. I host a show called the Big Brother Jake Podcast. And I've taken my talents to the biggest and baddest platform on the planet. That's right, baby. Podcast One. My show is unique as I talk about everything. Life, sports, entertainment, being a single dad juggling several jobs. I'm a hot mess, but it's damn entertaining. Subscribe and review now on Apple Podcasts and listen on Podcast One or wherever you get your podcasts.